Well, hello there, guys. Welcome to our Strategic Command stream. Hope you guys are ready to jump into some Strategic Command. We will give a few minutes for some people to get into the stream, and then we will get started. We are doing this stream somewhat earlier than we usually do, to be quite honest. So we're about 30 minutes early. I hope that doesn't affect too much of our incoming viewers, but we'll see what happens. Okay, guys, so I think we're going to jump into single player, and what I really wanted to try, it's actually one of the campaigns we haven't tried yet, and it's going to be 1940 Attack in the West. I really wanted to see how we do against the French and the Belgians, and of course the British Expeditionary Forces. So we're going to go ahead and try this attack on the West and see if we can be victorious. So victory conditions for the Germans, of course, is to control Berlin, Rome, Warsaw, Paris, London, Moscow, Leningrad, Stalingrad, and Kyoto. Honestly, and this is, of course, the victory condition for every single one of the battles, really just the victory conditions for World War II. One thing I hate is the necessity of controlling London. It's so hard to accomplish Operation Sea Lion that I think that at the very least, the decisive victory should not include London. But I understand why it, of course, does. So we are going to jump into the campaign, guys, here, Attack on the West. We will be using NATO counters. And I'm going to go ahead and set the difficulty to Veteran. We have played this game a bit, so I think we can do pretty well with Veteran. Let me go ahead and get rid of the 3D units. Once again, NATO counters are my favorite. How's it going, guys? Hello, Gary, and also Piddly and Piddle Squishy. How you doing, man? As well as the viewers on YouTube. It's good to see everybody. Okay, we're going to jump back in here. So I am going to be taking the regular old NATO counters. I'm not really a fan of the 3D counters, but if you like the 3D counters, feel free to use them when you're playing the game yourself. I mean, of course, you can always get them and check them out, kind of see if they're your thing. So here we go. Sub spotted near Brest. With the conquest of Poland behind us, we can now stand ready for our next great task, the defeat of France. After conquering France, we will be in a position to deal with Great Britain either by invading her directly or by defeating her in Egypt and conquering the Middle East. The defeat of France will also enable us to prepare for the greater conflict that lies ahead, war with the Soviet Union. Let us advance and put our enemies to flight. Panzers forward. Actually, I think I want to call this video Panzers forward. Okay, Finland has a pro-Axis leaning, and she will automatically join our side when we advance to within either 4 hexes of Leningrad, 5 of Novgorod, or 1 hex of Pskov, Ostrov, or Polotsk. So really interesting. So we can, of course, eventually get them to join us. Now, this is the really tough part. This is, of course, the Operation Sea Lion aspect. A study by staff officers looking at the question of invading Great Britain has reported that if we were to do so in 1940, then there are a number of steps we should take to help prepare the way. These include investing in air power to knock out the Royal Air Force and Royal Navy, investing in amphibious warfare technology, etc., etc. So this would, of course, be a very high-risk operation if we tried to do it, and it would actually take a very long time to accomplish. Obviously, we're just doing a stream today, so we probably won't have the opportunity to actually take the enemy on. But I am curious to see just how quickly we can beat Belgium, France, and essentially win the war here. Piddles and Squishy. My fiance and my nicknames for each other. Aw, that's adorable and terrible at the same time. Let's take a look here. Hello also to our viewers on YouTube. I know we've got some people watching on YouTube as well. We are restreaming this. Let's jump back into the game. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and go straight for Brussels. I guess we might have to declare war on Belgium. I don't think we're officially at war. So let's go ahead and declare war. Yes. There we go. And we can actually see the Belgians have raised, you could call it an army, I guess. It's not really an army, though. There's not much there. And it's interesting, actually, the invasion of France by the Germans. It was definitely one of those wars, one of those wars where the French actually were not nearly as weak as people think they were. The French actually had some pretty good tanks at the time. Somoise, other tanks that probably could have stood up, at least some of the time, not always. Probably could have stood up to the Germans. It was very strange, of course. I'm also going to attack the Netherlands, by the way. Let's go ahead and find Netherlands. So I really think it was in a position where we, probably could have had the French taken a specific kind of tactic. Of course, they could have possibly stopped the Germans, or at least made it a lot harder for the Germans to get into the country. Now, what I'm going to do is cut through here, and already we've got a Belgian general here, King Leopold. It's the king. Well, let's take out the king immediately. And we can attack a second time, so we will take out King Leopold. And 360 national morale. That's what you get when you take out a king. And of course, once King Leopold was, driven out of power by the Germans, that's when the Dutch officially, or I should say the Belgians officially, sort of surrendered and stopped fighting. Of course, during World War I, things were very different. The Belgians stayed in the war for quite a while. Let's bring in some medium bombers here. And actually, I think we probably don't need to use these medium bombers to attack the Netherlands. I think we could probably take this area with just infantry, but we might as well be as safe as possible. Let me take some of these bombers and go ahead and hit these French positions. We might lose some planes, but I think it's absolutely worth it. Okay. More medium bombers. Let's bring them in. And once again, we're going to have to declare war on yet another country, and that is going to be Luxembourg. Tiny nation, but certainly capable of putting up a tiny fight. A fight at least, but I don't think they're going to actually have time to raise any units, so we've just taken the capital, and we'll begin our attack on the French 11th Corps. So we want to go ahead. I want to definitely find a breakthrough position here. If I have to do it with my tanks, fine, but I want to get through the enemy lines and basically smash them. You have to keep in mind as well, and this is quite important, that more than likely if you're playing this mission, and remember we were playing at an intermediate level, the best idea is to cut through Belgium and attack France from the north. So basically cutting behind their lines, because they've got the Maginot line here, and they're very, very interested in holding it, and they're quite effective at holding this line. It's just like World War I. They're pretty good. Of course, our ground units, our infantry, is pretty strong here, but as you can see, we can't break through here. It's not possible. We're going to have to get through Belgium, essentially. All right. Don't want to declare war on the Soviets yet. I think we need all the troops we can use to assist with the war over here. And I wonder if the Italians can advance into French territory. For whatever reason, I'm not sure if Italy and Germany were officially allies at this point. For whatever reason in this game, we're not able to attack the French from Italy. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if they had some sort of truce or ceasefire. Maybe somebody can enlighten us in the comments and kind of let us know what that's all about. Give me 1 second. I want to take a look here at the comments, speaking of which. French don't get enough credit. Brave men died here trying to save their country. Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. They really did fight well. I really think the issue with the French, and the reason that the French essentially lost as quickly as they did, was because of the command structure. It always flows down from the top, and in the case of France, that was certainly the case. A lot of the generals were obsessed with these World War I tactics that were totally outdated. I mentioned in my Let's Play yesterday, I believe, for Order of Battle, that unfortunately these generals really had a belief system that tanks were not very useful, that tanks should only be used to support infantry units. They shouldn't be used as any sort of offensive weapon to move faster behind enemy lines or to flank enemy tanks. So there were just a lot of mistakes committed by the high command, I think, that probably could have gone a very different way. Alright, let's get into Groningen. We'll move in the rest of our boys. I don't want that general staying there. He's doing just fine. Let's try to get some of these ships out to sea as well. Especially some submarines. The submarines are extremely useful because if we can get them to an enemy sea route, like this one over here, we can cut off a lot of the supply the enemy's getting. Of course, getting through here is tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up here in the icy icy north and try to cut north of Scotland, come around this way, west of Ireland, and, of course, land somewhere over here. It's going to take some time, but that's generally what I do with the submarines in this game. Bring another one. I love that little pinging sonar sound. That's so cool. And maybe we'll even send in a heavy cruiser just to confuse the enemy. Sure enough, enemy destroyer. Can we get a shot? Nice. Very nice. Let's take a look here. Blitzkrieg OP, says Spartan. Absolutely. The Italians were very poorly equipped. So maybe that's why. That makes sense, Piddly and Squishy. So that's why. That totally makes sense. Very cool. So essentially the Italians were just in the process of joining the Germans with the French. Can't forget just how damaging the Spanish Civil War was for the Italian army. They spent too much in men and resources. See, I knew about the German involvement in the Spanish Civil War, giving the fascist planes and things like that, but I wasn't aware of the Italian involvement, so that's quite interesting. And of course, many could argue that the Spanish Civil War was sort of a trial for World War II, sort of a pre-World War II war that could even be called, one of the creators of modern warfare. Of course, you had CNT-FI against Franco, a bunch of other factions involved in that war, just so many different factions. So, of course, that was a tough one. Let's be honest. Oh, no. I didn't realize these paratroopers hadn't landed yet. Oh, yeah, they have. They're fine. Okay. So I do want to go straight for Brussels, but I can't help but take out these fighters. The Belgians had a fighter unit there, 250 national morale. I think we absolutely did the right thing. And let's move into Rotterdam. And we can attack The Hague next turn. I hope the Dutch just surrender. I don't think that they need to lose any men over this. They know we've won. We've broken through. Just give up at this point. All right, Liège. Boom! The Belgians are getting smashed, and of course Brussels is their last area. It looks like we destroyed their fort there as well, really, really quickly, so that's awesome. I'm going to try one more attack, but the odds are against us, and sure enough, yep, we learned a lesson. What to do, what to do. All right, let's send some destroyers up here just to scout the area. Don't forget we're sending our submarine here. I think it's probably not a bad idea to go up here and just make sure that things are fairly calm. And I think at this point we can end the turn. We'll take a look at the chat, of course. Yeah, Krillo makes a good point. It's not just the French, the lack of command in the French army that caused these problems. It is, of course, the German Blitzkrieg. I mean, a lot of these things were not expected. They were very new to warfare. But I do believe that you can make the case that the French commanders should have been much more prepared for the war, of course. I might be wrong, but I definitely think they should have been a lot more prepared. Let's go ahead and end the turn. We could also bring our Italian Navy over here. It's probably not a bad idea, so I'm going to start moving them over. But the Italian Navy is actually not very good. Another problem is they have to stay, or they have to remain in the Mediterranean, as far as I know. I think if we want to move them into the Atlantic, we've got to go all the way to the west here, and there's actually an area right here to the Atlantic, axis only. We basically drop a unit here, and within one turn, they're popped somewhere over here in the Atlantic Ocean. So not too bad, but it takes some time. Also move forward with a general, and this is von Rundstedt. This is a great von Rundstedt. Move forward a little bit more here. And I'll try to see if I can get any more bombing runs. I think we're out of bombs. We've used them all up. Well, guys, we're going to end the turn and turn it over to the enemy. Of course, I will show you guys the research screen, because remember, initially, there were some suggestions about what sort of research we should be doing. This is definitely something, if you play the game, you want to look in, you want to take a look at, understand it, etc. Right now, we're not going to research anything because we just don't have enough time to finish the entire series. But that's certainly something that you would want to focus on if you were playing the game. Obviously, whatever you research, it's completely up to you, but try to go for something that's actually going to help your nation as a whole. All right, guys, we're going to end the turn here. We're turning it over to the Allies. I want to see what they do. So, British national morale is boosted by having Winston Churchill as Prime Minister. I'm not so sure about that. Initially, Winston Churchill was not the most popular Prime Minister. He only gained that popularity during the war itself. So, I'm not sure that that's totally accurate. Furukotea. Now that Norway has surrendered, we need to reconsider the current convoy route from Narvik. The route from Narvik is very susceptible to attack from Allied aircraft and shipping. It could also be threatened by enemy forces were they to land at Narvik. One solution would be to have all of our iron ore come directly from Sweden, with only a reduced convoy sailing from Kristianland in southern Norway. If we do say yes, then our potential income will be less, as no convoys can sail from Sweden in the winter. But what we do receive from Scandinavia will be safer from attack. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think it's a pretty simple decision to make. It's not a complex one at all. Of course, Luxembourg surrenders. We get some morale points from them, and hopefully Belgium will be surrendering soon as well. I was kind of hoping that they would surrender with the capture of King Leopold, but it looks like they are going to keep on fighting until Brussels falls, which I must say, pretty brave. Got to give it to them. Good job. I can definitely respect them for that. Okay, the formation of the Home Guard boosts British morale. And there we go, a little counterattack here. By the French, no less. I mean, it's a tiny counterattack, but I think it's something. Guys, we're going to take a 2 to 3 minute intermission. I'll be right back. So, hold on to your seats, and we'll get started here very, very soon. Alright guys, sorry about that intermission. Let's take a look and see what happened. So, formation of the Home Guard boosts British morale. German forces capture Ibn Amayel. For those of you that don't know about Ibn Amayel, it was a really important fort for the Belgians, and they actually managed to hold out there for a very long time, killed a lot of Germans as well. Quite a fascinating story. If you ever want to just take out Ibn Amayel, type it into YouTube and watch a documentary on the entire sort of battle, I guess you could call it, it's definitely worth a watch. It sort of reminds me of the Brest Fortress in Russia. It's a very similar kind of story, and I was surprised at how well the Belgians were able to hold off. Let's take a look here. Wow! An entire slit. You're a millionaire now. Well done, man. Well done. Okay, guys, so let's jump back into the game here. Once again, hello to everybody viewing us also on YouTube. It's good to see you guys as well. I think we're going to start breaking through here, and sure enough, we got lucky here. We're moving through Luxembourg. I want to get behind the enemy as well at Verdun, but you can see that the one thing the French did do is they kept the Siegfried line pretty well defended. This was one area that they expected the Germans to attack across this line, which was pretty silly of them, considering the fact that even during World War I, the Germans were barely able to break the Siegfried line, and you know they really didn't manage to ultimately. And it just was so heavily fortified at this time that it really wouldn't have been a smart move by the Germans to attack that area. So I think it's a little strange. As you can see here, we're actually going to go up against some enemy heavy tanks, and I like how it's represented here in the game because much like real life, the French tanks, like I said, not too bad, not too shabby at all. French tanks could definitely stand up to German tanks at the time. Now, had this been 1943, 1944, I couldn't say that. But, you know, at the time, the French tanks were certainly able to stand up to the Panzer IIs, the Panzer IIIs, and it was really mostly Panzer IIs that made the attack into France. So you got to keep that in mind. It was not Germany's best tank. It was, you know, a precursor to much better tanks, Panzer IVs, etc. But initially, it really wasn't that great. I would classify it as maybe a medium tank or even a light tank. The actual French tanks could have done a lot better. There was also some issues regarding a lot of the soldiers that could have been called up for duty weren't, and instead they took a lot of replacements to deal with the situation. Just so many mistakes, I think, by the French. But, you know, they did, of course, fight bravely. One can't say they didn't. You know, there's this sort of, I guess, common misconception that the French are cowards and this and that. No, actually, the French managed to kill quite a lot of Germans during the invasion, and they definitely had a few last stands where, you know, they just wouldn't surrender. And a lot of these guys, like I mentioned before, were replacements. They were never really meant to be on a battlefield. So you've got to give it to the French in terms of the fight they put up. I'm going to go ahead and try to attack Brussels once again with a bombing run, but I fear that the enemy's going to intercept us. Let's see what happens. Oh, we got very lucky, so we actually managed to hit Brussels. Let's see if we can come in for another run. No, I don't think so. I want to take The Hague anyway. Forget it. There's a 250 national morale bonus. Move in. And we'll get our general to move into Deventer to be just a little bit closer to the men. I also think I want to use my bombers to try and hit the Winkelmann HQ here in the Netherlands. Otherwise, we're going to be pretty safe. I think the only way to break the Siegfried line, as I said before, is to get behind it, basically flank it, or to get really lucky with some bombing runs, maybe hit an area like Strasbourg, lower the amount of troops here and attack. But again, I'm probably not going to do that. We will, however, take our cruisers and start scouting the north. Sure enough, we've already found an enemy cruiser. We're going to go ahead and engage. It's a light cruiser, so we actually managed to do quite a lot of damage to it. We could bring our submarine in to attack the enemy, but I think I'm actually going to keep him out of the fight. Although, look at that, more enemy contact. So the British are definitely prepared for any of our submarines. Let's take a look. They definitely know that we're trying to get to them as quickly as possible. Now, the destroyer could actually do some damage to my subs, so I'm going to actually bring my ships in and try to engage some of the enemy ships. We could actually probably destroy this renowned battle cruiser. It looks like we just got a kill. And we've got some more submarines here. I hope these guys, though, can avoid any detection, get past the enemy's embargo. But we still have a lot of fighting to do. So I want to see if we have any other units here that we could use. We should have some. Well, we haven't conquered France yet, so there's still that, of course. Let's see. I don't think there's much we can do here. Let's take a look. We will, of course, try to bring over some submarines, Italian submarines, which it doesn't really matter what kind of sub you use. Basically, what you do is you want to put the submarine on one of the enemy trading lines. You see this red line? This sort of lets us know where trading is going and how it's being done. Even this line, we could actually put some subs on because apparently they are getting reinforcements from Alexandria. The Allies are, so we could actually cut that off. But I just moved my sub. We probably should have waited a little bit with the poor submarine. It looks to be also the only fleet of submarines we have in the Italian fleet. I'm sure we have more, but I haven't seen any. Let's move down. Now, this is not the same. If you've got a cruiser or something like that on the water, the enemy more than likely would just kind of go around it, essentially ignore it. What we really need are more subs. Let's see if we've got anything else. 9. Scheiße. Of course, we've got Albania, but this is old news with the Italians managing to conquer Albania. And what I'm really trying to do here is cut off all the rail lines. You know, the more we mess up the enemy rail system, I think the easier it's going to be to claim victory. I'm also going to move one of the units out of Luxembourg. I'll move a unit here to replace him, though, and I am going to try and attack the French here. Probably not a great idea. Like I said, this area is very well defended, and as you can see, we didn't manage to do any damage whatsoever. Pretty pitiful show, actually. We will send in some bombers, but I don't think they're going to be very successful, to say the least. Send some in over here. And actually, those bombers managed to get some damage, or deal some damage, but they also took some damage as well. So, not the greatest situation. Let's attack Brussels. The guy's going to need some reinforcements. Let's see. Nope. As you can see, the odds are totally against us in terms of attacking across the line. So we're going to end the turn and see what the enemy does. French morale suffers as German forces advance. Wonderful. Wunderbar. Okay, German morale is boosted as the Maginot Line. And I've been calling it the Siegfried Line. Shame on me. The Maginot Line is outflanked, so we have gotten behind the Maginot Line. That was our initial goal. And of course, if we completely cut off the Maginot Line, then the French aren't going to have any form of defense there. No supplies. They're going to have to surrender. German advance spreads fear through French forces. I would imagine so. Okay, here we go, guys. This is the chance for, of course, France to redeem herself. See if they can push us back. I'm really surprised that they actually attempted to attack us at Ypres and near Calais as well. Basically, Dunkirk. It looks like a few of the French are still fighting back. You could also see what a difficult position the British troops were in during the evacuation of Dunkirk, because when you take a look here at the map, you could see that the German forces really aren't that far from Calais. They're actually quite close. So, obviously, when the British were escaping or evacuating, they probably had the distinct realization that these German troops were very, very close to them and could, of course, attack them at any moment. So definitely a cause for concern, to say the least. It looks like our submarine got away, but unfortunately our carrier did not. Enemy just got a 275 national morale bonus out of that. Now, we've actually made a little mistake ourselves. We were trying to move in with the blitzkrieg tactics and get our tanks behind the enemy lines, but they've actually managed to cut off that tank. So that tank army might be in trouble. I think the French can probably destroy it before it becomes any sort of threat. All right, USSR annexes the Baltic states, so Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, all under Soviet control now. And of course, the cool thing about this game that many of you may or may not know is you can play the game however the hell you like. So, for instance, if you start in 1940 or 1939, whatever, you can actually decide, hey, you know what? I want to take over Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania and go ahead and go to war. You could also try to get them to become your allies so that when they are attacked, you have a reason to go to war with the Soviets. Although I don't recommend doing that early in the game, you will get stomped. Just like the real war, you do need to be prepared for the Soviets. It's not an easy, step in, destroy them, and move out. You actually have to mount a massive offensive, and you need to have a lot of troops to do that with, as you can probably imagine. The way you do that, of course, is by not only researching new technology, but also producing troops in the troop production panel, which is at the top of the screen right here. Basically, purchase new troops. Depending on the country you're playing as, you're going to have, a certain amount of MPP to purchase new troops, but it really depends. I've certainly gotten into situations where, I've spent a lot of my MPP and I end up having nothing after a while, and I kind of have to go a few turns without any new troops. Most of the time what you're given is sufficient, but if you're starting the game from 1939 or even 1940, I highly recommend that you immediately start researching new troops. I mean, just as an example, even though we're advancing into France and Belgium here and the Netherlands, and we're doing a good job at it, if we take a look at the Eastern Front, which of course nothing's happened here yet, there's nothing here. I mean, we have no men, except for maybe a few armies, over here. We've got a Slovakian army. We've got one army defending Warsaw, the 21st Corps. But in general, if the Russians were to attack us right now, they would stomp us easily. So once we defeat France, we need to prepare for an actual invasion of the Soviet Union, which makes things very interesting. Anyway, guys, we are going to end now the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. This was a little bit of a shorter stream. There is a transit strike here in Italy, so we didn't have as much time to actually stream to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Obviously, if you guys are fans of the Strategic Command series, you should absolutely tell your friends about it. If you haven't purchased the game yet, now is the time to do it. It's a great game. You can have a lot of fun here. Obviously, multiple different starting points. And in fact, before I end the stream, I will go ahead and take a look here at the main menu. Hold on. Okay, guys, so if we take a look here at the main menu, you jump into single player mode, and you can see you can start in 1939, 1940, 1941, 42, 43, and 44. And you're not restricted to just playing as the Axis. You can also play as the Allies. It's really up to you what side you pick. And it can be a lot of fun. I personally prefer 1942 as the Germans. It's just a really, really sort of like nail-biting fight. And of course, in 1944, as the Allies, which I'm actually currently playing on my channel and hoping to get a dramatic victory against the enemy. And I think we can actually get a victory before the actual VE Day in the war. VE, of course, stands for Victory in Europe Day. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by, as always. Thank you, Musa, for moderating, and I hope you guys all have a really great day. If you guys do want us to do some more Strategic Command, and more importantly, if you want us to continue this particular Let's Play, let us know in the comments. We're also streaming this on YouTube, so you can obviously drop some comments there. But we definitely want more and more people to share their opinions about the channel and how they want it to go. Thank you so much, Killbot. Yes, thank you for following us, Oberstein. Danke. All right, my friends, take care. Have a great day.